This video is to prove that it's not a power supply anomaly or capacitors in the power supply causing what I'm seeing or any of that. We're converting it to mechanical. So my power supply is powering a motor. Direct current is going from my supply directly into a motor. There's a belt mechanically transferring energy into the generator, turning the generator. The generator produces pulsing DC out these wires. I have it going into a bridge rectifier because I'm not sure what polarity I'm on and I want to make sure I'm safe with that. Then I have a cap hooked up to smooth it out because these have commutators, so they have pulsing DC, but I don't want to feed that into my H-bridge. I want it smooth, so I have a little cap here. Okay, so this yellow wire here is my source, positive, from the generator. This green is my negative from the generator. This is now my feed to my circuit. Now, green comes directly out into the negative of my H-bridge. And yellow, which is my positive for my generator, goes through a diode, then out into the H-bridge. Pretty simple. H-bridge, I have my two out wires here connecting onto my transformer, which is in parallel currently for this effect. Okay. Now, under any circumstance, if I measure voltage on either side of the diode, the source should be higher than the load. And actually, that is true because the diode is going to drop a little bit of voltage. So my source will be a little higher than my load side under all circumstances. Never should you see your load side higher than your source. But you're going to see what happens. Now, I have a multimeter. My yellow multimeter is hooked up to the generator before the diodes, right off the generator, to measure how much the generator, how many volts we're sending into the circuit. Then my red multimeter here is going to measure either side of the diode, my red lead and my black lead. Now again, under ordinary circumstances, you should never see positive voltage in this configuration because I have the black lead, and that's my common. Okay, I have the black lead hooked up to the source side, so that should be higher. So we should always have negative voltage if they're not exactly even. But you're going to see what happens here. Okay, so nothing from the supply could be causing this because we're mechanically converting from the supply and making our own energy. So let's turn it on. It's turning. Let's turn this to direct current, 5.2 volts coming out of the generator. On either side of the diode, positive 7.8, almost 8 volts. Okay, so we're putting 5 volts mechanically out of the generator, which goes to the H-bridge. Okay, H-bridge is doing its magic there. And then the flyback, not the flyback, the back EMF, you can see on either side of the diode. This is just the input wire straight through. The input wire just goes straight through. Put a diode in there, and you could separate the back EMF from the forward voltage, and you could see how much it goes up. Now we're putting in 5, but the difference between the two sides is almost 8. That doesn't mean there's 8 volts here. That means the difference between this and this is 8. That means you take 8 plus 5 and you get 12 or 13 volts. So we're putting in 5, and we actually have a total of 13 because it's stepping it up 8 extra volts with the back EMF. Now, you've seen my videos, I hope. If not, go back to my channel. I could take it from here, put another diode, and I could run a motor and ground the motor to here and have the return of the motor coming in the positive of the battery or the supply or the generator. And vice versa. If I move this diode or add a diode over here, you could do the exact opposite. Now, this becomes your hot wire, and this becomes your, no, exact opposite. This becomes your hot wire, and this becomes your ground. This wire is actually lower, 8 volts, lower than the negative terminal of the battery. So you could flow electricity from the negative terminal of the battery through a load and back into the negative terminal. So there you have it. It's not coming from the supply. Generator's putting out 5 volts, and we're solid, barely fluctuating, a couple millivolts fluctuating with speed, but nothing major, constant.